but you want to adopt a baby, invite the baby into the family. So if you want to, and you don't know who it is, you have to ask the president and see, or whoever it is, if you know who to ask, if you can adopt it, if you're a good enough person to adopt it, then you can adopt babies.
Well, I have something exciting to tell you.
What?
I'm not pregnant, but I sort of am.
With somebody else's baby?
What?
Adopting!
We're officially starting the whole process.
I'm applying.
So what, Mama?
Woo! It's a big decision to even start. Alright guys, it's finally time. It's time to begin the journey of documenting our adoption. I am equally as excited as I am nervous. It's currently 10 p.m. and all 4 kids are sleeping. I put makeup on and did my hair for this video, but truth be told, that's not for you. It's actually for me, because I realize that this video will probably be looked back on a lot by our family. I'm gonna try and condense this video down as small as possible, but the reason that I've hesitated to make this video or to start it is because even in just the short amount of time we've been starting this process, there's so much that has gone on that when I sit down to make a video, I feel like it's just gonna be 3 hours long. It's hard to even know how to condense it down into a short enough version that's kind of watchable. I think it's gonna be worth watching, and hopefully you are along for the journey. So my husband and I have always talked about adoption being part of our plan for growing our family. In the beginning of our marriage, we would talk about it here and there, but it was never an in-depth conversation. We never decided what kind of adoption or how or when. We just kind of were always open to it. We knew we wanted to have a bigger family, whatever that meant, and so we went on to have 4 of our own biological kids. And when my youngest turned a year, it was kind of that time to have the conversation about family planning and figuring out the next steps. We had decided that we wouldn't prevent getting pregnant, and at the point that he turned a year, we weren't pregnant yet, so we were kind of discussing the options. I can go into further detail about how we came to our decision to adopt in that moment and kind of the reasons behind it and our own convictions, but to condense this video, I'm just gonna say that I felt God kind of tugging on my heart to pursue adoption instead of getting pregnant. With this probably being our last child, it was kind of like now or never. And there was a bunch of different things that kind of lined up that happened, and we started talking through it and really going into detail about all those things you have to communicate about before you make a decision like this. Things like, how is your marriage? How are your kids? How are your finances? Are you stable with your home and your environment? And so we talked through all the different factors, and we both agreed that if we were going to adopt, now is the best time. So from that moment, we really just kind of jumped in feet first. We really had no idea what the process was, how long it was gonna take. We felt pretty new to the whole scene. We knew there was no better way to get started than to just jump in, and that's what we did. So the first step for us was really hiring what's called a adoption consultant. Because we had decided that we wanted to adopt an infant, and we wanted an infant within the United States, we hired a consultant, which is basically someone who connects you with different agencies all over the country. If you take what's called a one agency approach, which is basically adopting within your state and only working with one agency that's kind of in your area, it's likely to take closer to 2 to 3 years, just because the demand is high and there's just not as many babies that are needing homes within the area right around you. So if you're wanting it to move a little faster and you have the resources to hire a consultant, then they can connect you with different agencies in different states, and that just opens up your options for finding something a little faster. So we found the consultant that we wanted to go with, and they were actually the ones that connected us with the agency in Minnesota that we decided to do our home study through. So right now we are currently at the very end of our home study, and the home study is the process that you go through to get approved by the state of Minnesota to adopt. Different states have different rules for their home study, and they all vary just a little bit. We're in Minnesota, so we've gone through the process based on what Minnesota requires. I wish I could go into great detail about that process, but so much has happened that there's no way I could include that in this video. It would make it like 5 hours long. So if you're interested in hearing about our process with the home study and what went into that, what was required, and kind of the cost around that, feel free to message me or contact me. I would love to share that with you if it's something that you're interested in finding out about. But when we went into this first step of the process, the home study, we were told that typically it takes anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months. And we were really hoping to get it done as fast as possible, so we did everything we could on our end to make it as fast as possible. There are certain things that are completely out of your control, which is why it can take as long as 6 months. We were hoping and praying for no major hiccups so that it could get done quickly so we could start the actual process of finding the baby. It's been an absolute whirlwind, and I cannot stress how much God has absolutely blessed this process for us, because we've heard from both the owner of the agency, who's been working with us from the beginning of this process, and also from the social worker who's been doing our home visits, that we may be the fastest home study they've ever done. And both of them are older women who have been doing this for a very long time, so that is saying a lot. I kind of just feel blown away by how this process has gone. In the little things that could have made this process so much longer, God really just kind of came in and did miracles to make things happen faster. Things like Phil needing his birth certificate from California, where he was born, and them saying it was gonna take 13 weeks and it ended up taking 3 weeks to get here. Another thing was our fingerprint clearances that can often take really long came back in record time, and so we were just kind of powering through every step, and we are at the very end, and it has only been just over 1 month since we started the home study process. So we are just so grateful, and we still realize that moving forward there's a lot of things that can happen, and it's one of those things where you just kind of hope for the best but prepare for the worst. Even if from now on there's little things that come up, or even big things that come up that delay the process, or things that come out of nowhere that we're not expecting, we still are so confident that God's hand is in this and He is with us every step of this process, and we're so excited to just move forward with this. So the next step for us as we get home study approved and move forward with our consultant is that we're basically able to see the cases that are being made available to different agencies around the country. Different consultants do it differently and different agencies do it differently. So I'm just going to explain the process that our consultants go through when they are presented cases of parents that want to place their child for adoption. Some places will go through and ask your preferences, things like gender, race, medical needs, and they will basically filter the cases for you and only present cases within the parameters of what you said you want. I don't know how often people do it that way, but the way that our consultant does it is they just present you with every single case that they have, and that way you're able to kind of go through and read all the details of each case and decide which case you are wanting to move forward with. I liked the sound of that better because that gives you an opportunity to kind of see what's out there. It gives you the gamut of all the different races and the different medical needs of each child and each family, and then you're able to go through and decide based on all the facts on each child what you're willing to say yes to. The other nice thing about that is that we didn't really have to make decisions right now about what we were and weren't okay with accepting. So at this point, we are open to either gender. Obviously, I'm going to lean towards a girl. Y'all aren't surprised by that, but we haven't completely closed it off to a boy, and we're completely open to any race. The only thing that we have to be a little bit specific about accepting is medical needs, and the main reason for that is because we already have 4 kids. They require a lot of time and attention, and we didn't feel like it would be fair for us to take on a child that had very high medical needs just because that would take so much time and energy away from the kids that we already have. We definitely went through the process of feeling, I don't know if guilty is the right word, but feeling bad that we had to be picky about that, because you kind of get to this point where you feel like we should just be open to anything. I mean, it's a child. But we've come to terms with the fact that it's okay for families to have specific needs and to prioritize the kids and the family that they already have and not take on something that is way beyond what they're capable of caring for. And really, when it comes down to it, that's being responsible, and it's not something that you should feel bad about. So from this point on, once we are home study ready, we will start to receive emails from our consultant about different cases. At different times, there's different amounts of cases that will come in. So from my understanding of it, there's certain times where you'll be getting cases either daily or weekly, and then you might go a while without seeing anything. But at the point that we read a case and we are interested in that child, we let the consultant know, and they present our family profile book to that mother. Another really cool way that our consultants do the presentation of the family information is that, if possible, they love to include a handwritten letter directly to that specific mother. And so in that case, if we decide to present to a family and we find out her name, we find out the gender of the baby and the specifics around the pregnancy, we will handwrite a letter with her name and speak directly to that mom about our intentions and how we feel about adoption, and kind of be able to share our heart with her behind us wanting to raise her child. And I thought that was really special because it's just so personal, and it shows that mom that we are willing to speak to her directly and not just hand her this generic book that goes to every other parent. At that point, it is her decision to pick whatever family she feels is fit and that she desires to raise her child. So that's obviously the wild card, because there are families that go years without getting picked because it's really just up to that mom and what she's desiring, and she can pick based on whatever she wants to. I mean, she can pick you based on you having kids or not having kids. She can pick you based on your hobbies. She can pick you based on the way that your house looks. And really, she can pick you based on anything that she feels is important to her. So that's where the waiting comes in. And so this next season that we're stepping into is kind of just the waiting, the taking leaps of faith and praying that whatever situation happens will be the right situation, the right mom, the right baby. The other unknown is that there is risk of what's called failed adoption, and that is when you present to a mom and she picks you as the parents she wants to raise her child. You go through the process of planning for that, and there's even scenarios where parents will fly all the way to be at the birth and be there for that child to be born, and then the mom decides to parent the child herself, and then the adoptive parents are kind of left to deal with having to face not parenting that child, losing money, and kind of dealing with the heartbreak, being excited and feeling like they're about to be parents to that child, and then having that situation fall through. And we are going into this knowing that's a possibility. Anyone who goes into adoption has to understand that there's always a possibility that it can fall through for many reasons, and that's just another thing that you have to put in God's hands and say, even if that situation arises, that that's what was meant to be, and that parent has the right to parent their child if they choose, even if it's at the last minute, and to not resent them for making that choice, even though it's very hard, but to just move forward knowing that there's another child out there who we will pursue and hopefully adopt. So that's kind of the next steps for us, and we are again excited and nervous, and we feel, I hate to even say the word ready, because you're never ready. And it's the same when you get pregnant with your own child. You can only be so ready. And even with pregnancy, there's so many unknowns, and you don't know what's going to happen medically, and you don't know how the birth is going to go, and you don't know the timing. So we feel as prepared as we can be, and we're ready for unknowns happening, but we trust that God will bring us through this and will bring us to the right child. We're excited to share this journey with you because we have been really impacted by hearing the stories of other people who have adopted, are adopted, or have placed a child for adoption. I really pray that by us sharing our story, it can impact you. Even if you don't adopt one day, hearing our story will bring information and education about the process. And in the future, I plan on doing other videos about misconceptions around adoption and helping to inform, my friends and family and people on the internet, whoever is interested in watching, about, things that are believed about adoption that aren't true, that can be kind of detrimental to the people involved. Thank you for making it this far. I am going to stop this video here because it's already very long, but stay tuned for more videos. As this process unfolds, I will continue to update as I can. So thank you for watching and stay tuned.